This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our last session of this run-through of Wandering Through the Big Book. This is number 63. We started in February of 21, and I just think it's amazing. And a lot of gratitude to those of you who have been at most of them, and I really appreciate it. It's been so good for me just getting ready for this stuff and then doing it. And I love the open discussions afterward. And so today is a vision for you. So we're going to start the way we always do with our opening words. We've got some readers ready. You can unmute if you want. Opening words. Welcome to this session of Wandering Through the Big Book. This is not a meeting of the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, no group conscience, no seventh tradition, no requirement for membership. Everybody's welcome. Our primary purpose is taking an in-depth look at the book, Alcoholics Anonymous, in order to deepen and strengthen our own recovery, to try to help others to do the same, and to try to become trusted servants of our fellowship. We are seeking conscious contact by trusting God, cleaning house, and helping others. And we're trying to improve that conscious contact by practicing steps 10, 11. So begin this gathering with a moment of silence to reflect on why we are here. And now we're going to do our opening readings adapted from the Big Book. And the first one is Hunter number 1.
I am Hunter, an alcoholic. Number 1, I earnestly advise every alcoholic to read this book through and through. Perhaps you came to scoff, you will remain to pray. Page 0, right before page 1.
Thank you, Hunter. And Jennifer, number 2.
Hi. I'm Jennifer. I'm an alcoholic. No attitude of holier than thou, no fees to pay, no axes to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. These are the conditions we have found most effective. Page 18. And be quick to see where religious people are right. Page 87.
Thank you, Jennifer. And John, number 3.
I am an alcoholic. My name is John. Number 3, if you are as seriously alcoholic as we were, we believe you have but 2 alternatives. One is to go on to the bitter end, blotting out of your consciousness how miserable you really are, page 25. And the other is to ask our Creator each morning in meditation to show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love, page 83.
Thank you, John. And Maureen, number 4. Oops, no, sorry, you're number 5. Glenn, number 4.
Hi, my name is Glenn. I'm an alcoholic. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will for us into all of our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. This is the proper use of the will. Page 85.
Thank you, Glenn. And Maureen, number 5.
Hi, I'm Maureen. I'm an alcoholic and an addict. Just to the extent that I humbly rely on God, do as I think God would have me do, will I be enabled to experience spiritual serenity in the midst of human calamity. Head in the clouds with God, feet on the ground, page 130.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm gonna mute you here. I think that's the one. Mute all. Okay. Ooh, looks good. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. And this is, as I said before, our final session on this Wandering Through the Big Book. And we're on step 12. And this is our 4th session on step 12. We did Working with Others. The first one, we did 2 things. And then we did to wives, the family afterward, and to employers, the 3rd one, I think. And then this is the 4th one on a vision for you, the last chapter. So I'm going to go through the Big Book, and starting on page 152, and just a snide comment. This is chapter 11. If Bill had been willing to make the doctor's opinion chapter 1, we would have had 12 chapters, don't you know? And I think it's interesting that in the big red book, the very first edition, the doctor's opinion was page 1. It wasn't separated as a, I don't know what they called it, but starting with the second edition, it became the preface, I think, and or forward, I don't know which it was. And so that's just interesting. A vision for you. And the other interesting thing to note is there is this, look how thick, you talk about a big book. Am I putting that there? Right, oops, sorry, I get all discombobulated. Writing the big book. This is like 800 pages, and it's the history of the writing of this book with a bunch of other little facts along with it. And one of the interesting things is that they wrote the chapters in the order that they are in the book, with the exception of chapter 5 and chapter 6 were written after A Vision for You. So they wrote the whole book without ever writing the 12 steps and without ever giving the specific instructions for the 12 steps. And if you think the way we've been doing it here, step 1 is doctor's opinion, Bill's story, there is a solution, more about alcoholism. Step 2 is we agnostics. And then steps 3 and 4 are how it works. Steps 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 are all in chapter 6, into action. And then the whole rest of the book is really about step 12. And this is the last of those chapters. But in terms of writing them, and it's why the book never says we are now at step 1. It doesn't say that till step 3. It says if you're convinced that you are alcoholic and you cannot manage your own life, and if you're convinced that no human power is going to solve your problem, no power of the body or power of the mind, and if you're convinced that God could and would, if you will ask God to help you, then you're now at step 3. If you're convinced of those things, you're now at step 3, which is we make a decision to treat the disease. And the first part of treating it is with 4 through 9, which is treating the mental part. We treat the physical part through abstinence. We treat the mental part with steps 4 through 9. And we treat the spiritual malady with steps 10, 11, and 12 every day. So if you're trying to help another, the first job is just getting them oriented to what we mean when we say we're a real alcoholic. Difference between the hard drinker and the real alcoholic is you give a hard drinker, they've got the allergy, they can't stop once they start, but you give them a good enough mental reason, and they can stop. It may not be easy, but they can stop. And there's a story about a hard drinker in more about alcoholism. So I don't know what I was saying, other than the first job in sponsoring is getting the other person to decide for themselves whether or not they fit our definition of an alcoholic. This is our definition. It's not AMA. It's not anybody else. It's not DSM. It's not any of that stuff. It's our definition in our very own book. And so once you get them to identify as whether or not they're a real alcoholic, the next step is well, now do you want to treat your disease? And why it's so important that a person come to an understanding. If you're a real alcoholic, you don't get any middle of the road deal. It's either an alcoholic death or trying to grow along spiritual lines, trying to get God in your life. There are no other options, and we're the only ones that real alcoholics are the only ones that go, how long have I got to decide this? Could we go over the alcoholic death one more time? Just what does it involve? I'm having a hard time. It's just so ridiculous the way our minds think. But at any rate, once you've decided to treat the disease, you treat the physical part with abstinence, the mental part with 4 through 9, and then the spiritual part with 10, 11, and 12 every day. And that's what we're reading about today. So I'm going to read, and just a reminder that when we've done this in study groups or in sponsoring somebody, each person reads a line, and especially if you're the sponsor and you're trying to help another, you read a sentence, they read a sentence, you read a sentence, they read a sentence. It slows you down. It makes it easy to stop anytime to discuss whatever you want to discuss. But in here, it's been difficult to do. If we were in a room together, it'd be easy. But here, it's been difficult to do. So I've been reading to you, but I'm just reminding you that it's an effective way of focusing on this. Chapter 11, a vision for you. For most normal folks, right from the start, they're hitting us. We're not normal. Our reaction to alcohol is not normal. Is not the normal reaction. For most normal folks, drinking means conviviality, companionship, colorful imagination. Nothing wrong with that. Boy, if you're a normal drinker, if you get 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, and your body says, stop, you're killing me, why not? Have fun. It's us abnormal folks that can't do that. And the challenge is that right from the get-go, usually, how often have you heard in a speaker meeting, somebody goes, my very first drink, I was in 8th grade. We mixed all this stuff together. I drank the whole bottle. Things got dizzy. I blacked out. I threw up, and I couldn't wait to do it again. Who else says that? I couldn't wait to do it again. And but we wind up, from the very first drink, we wind up forming this equation that alcohol equals relief. Alcohol equals, what they say, conviviality, companionship, colorful imagination. Alcohol takes me from a square peg in a round hole, or a round peg in a square, whatever it is, makes me fit in, makes me feel good. And we form that equation from the start. So then, and we identify so with it, whether we realize it or not. It's amazing how many people come into AA and don't think they're alcoholic. They're coming in as the last possibility for them. And it's because alcohol is not our problem. Alcohol is our solution. And it takes a long time to change that equation in the mind. That's an old idea. I mean, all the stuff that we want, conviviality, companionship, colorful imagination, that's good stuff. The problem is how we want to go about it, go about getting it. It, meaning drinking, it means release from care, boredom, and worry. It is joyous intimacy with friends, the feeling that life is good. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've been chasing a feeling that life is good all my damn life. And I'm feeling it. I've been feeling it this past year, ever since we got back to live meetings and I came out of this dark and dreadful period. Life is good, but it's because it's radically different than the way I led it before. But not so with us in those last days of heavy drinking. Old pleasures gone, they're but memories. Never could we recapture the great moments of the past. There was an insistent yearning to enjoy life as we once did, and a heartbreaking obsession that some new miracle of control would enable us to do it. There was always one more attempt and one more failure. You know, when he's on, he's a powerful writer. The less people tolerated us, the more we withdrew from society, from life itself, as we became subjects of King Alcohol, shivering denizens in his mad realm, the chilling vapor that is loneliness. Settled down. I'm all alone here, and I have no idea what to do. It thickened, becoming ever blacker. Some of us sought out sordid places, hoping to find understanding, companionship, and approval. Momentarily we did. Then would come oblivion and the awful awakening to face the hideous four horsemen: terror, bewilderment, frustration, despair. I've been in here coming up on 13 years now, and I don't think I think I was old enough and had experienced my mind lying to me enough that I really have never turned away. But in those moments, if I ever had moments of, what did we say? Perhaps I was making too big a deal of this. You know, I just go back to these four words: terror, bewilderment, frustration, despair. And it's the idea of I'm laying on the ground, sobbing and shaking, and these four hideous horsemen are surrounding me, you know, on like a cowboy move on all four sides, and they're, you know, and it instantly will remind me that my life is better than it ever has been, and that why would I possibly turn back on the only thing that's ever brought these feelings to me without a hangover, emotional or physical, or like drugs, you know, where there is a price that we pay. So at any rate, terror that something has gone horribly wrong. I don't think life is supposed to be this way. Bewilderment, I don't know what to do. I'm a sailor, boater. It's like being in the fog. No idea where you are, no idea where you're going. Frustration that everything I have tried to live a better life has failed. My mind kept saying, you do this, you do that, you get this, you get that, you get rid of this, you get rid of that, you get over this, whatever it is, you'll be happy. And I'm happy for 5 minutes before my mind's saying, yeah, I know, but you know, now this has got to change. I've had one moment, I had it in an AA meeting where nothing needed to change. I couldn't believe it. This was a month ago. Nobody needed to be any different. I didn't need to go anywhere. I was happy and content right there. And it's just it was a wonderful feeling, but also a strange feeling. Nothing needs to change. Nothing needs to be different. I'm okay right here, right now. And these people are okay right here, right now. And what we're doing is okay right here, right now. Now and then a serious drinker being dry at the moment says, I don't miss it at all. Feel better, work better, having a better time. I love this. As ex-problem drinkers, we smile at such a sally. We know our friend is like a boy whistling in the dark. You know, can you imagine? Little boy walking down the road, terrified. What's coming next? Whistling to keep his spirits up or to pretend he's not terrified. He fools himself. Inwardly, he would give anything to take a half a dozen drinks and get away with it. That was me. I did it for 4 months. I tried to get away with it. He will presently try the old game again, for he isn't happy about his sobriety. That is our goal. Contented sobriety, not white knuckle sobriety. He can look at this. He cannot picture life without alcohol. Someday, I don't know why I'm laughing, because this is treacherous stuff. Someday, he will be unable to imagine life either with alcohol or without it. I can't imagine not drinking, and I can't imagine to continue drinking. Then he will know loneliness as few of us do. He will be at the jumping off place. He will wish for the end. So I'm going to try to make the case later on that that we really only have two options: self-reliance and God reliance, although it's spiritual I don't know what to say. God is the word that we use, but that's it. And the book says something that I just think is profound. It says, the reason I experience fear is because of the failure of self-reliance. So I'm trying to make the case that he will know loneliness such as few do. This is the ultimate outcome of self-reliance, right? It's when you're relying on your own internal physical and mental abilities. You're in self-reliance, and our book says it fails. Now, I think the fifth step is asking us to inquire, why does my self-reliance fail? What is the exact nature of the failure of my self-reliance? And I struggle with that, you know. I want to know what's the exact nature of my wrongs, which a word I don't even want to say. And I believe today that the exact nature of my wrongs is I believed my own thinking. I believed what my mind thought was giving me the truth. I asked my mind to solve whatever, I asked my human power to solve whatever problem I had on its own terms. I feel like I'll be 76 in July, and I feel like for probably 74 of those years, in spite of claiming spiritual interest, that I was living predominantly from my body and my mind. And I'm convinced today that my body and my mind have their own agenda. To simplify it, I believe my body's agenda is to survive, just be here as long as it can. And my mind's agenda is it wants to feel good, although it's not really sure what makes it feel good and what doesn't make it feel good. And then I believe I have a soul, and it has a way different agenda than my body and my mind. But I've been living under the tyranny of the agenda of my body and my mind until experiencing conscious contact. And when one experiences conscious contact and we make the effort to improve that conscious contact, everything changes, everything. And it's why that in the whatever phase of sponsorship it is, when you're working with somebody on 4 through 9, the goal is not to do 4 through 9 perfectly. The goal is to get to conscious contact, so that then you can go about improving that conscious contact and living in accordance with that conscious contact through steps 10, 11, and 12 on a daily basis. So So I don't know what, he will be at the jumping off place. He will wish for the end. He's experiencing the total failure of self-reliance, and has no idea what to do next. And the idea of conscious contact with a power greater, a spiritual power of love and wisdom greater than the body and greater than the mind is not only unavailable, it's unimaginable. We've shown how we got out from under. You say, yes, I'm willing, but am I to be consigned to a life where I shall be stupid, boring, and glum, like some righteous people I see? I know I must get along without liquor, but how can I? Have you a sufficient substitute? Yes, there is a substitute, and it's vastly more than that. It's a fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. There you will find release from care, boredom, and worry. Your imagination will be fired. Life will mean something at last. The most satisfactory years of your existence lie ahead. Thus, we find the fellowship, and so will you. That's all true for me. All true in ways that I could not have imagined at the start of this deal. Down in that next paragraph, among them you will make lifelong friends. You will be bound to them with new and wonderful ties. It just blows my mind. I mean, I have my natural family. I've got my family of choice around here, and then I got Alcoholics Anonymous, and there's nothing like it. The relationships I feel like I have inside Alcoholics Anonymous are just the best. At the top of page 153, then you will know what it means to give of yourself and others, that others may survive and rediscover life. Rediscover life, isn't that a wonderful way to say it? Or as Amy would say, rediscover your enthusiasm for life. You will learn that, look at this. This is a promise, a 12th, there got to be more 12th step promises than any other step, partly because so many pages. You will learn the full meaning of love thy neighbor as thyself. It means you're experiencing love of life with God's power flowing through you, showing you patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. Instead of fear of the failure of your self-reliance. It may seem incredible that these men are to become happy, respected, and useful once more. And I apologize, I should substitute people. This was a very male-written book, but obviously it doesn't exclude females at all. How can they rise out of such misery, bad repute, and hopelessness? Practical answer is that since these things have happened among us, they can happen with you. That's our job. Every meeting that you go to, every interaction that you have, you are demonstrating what a relationship with God means in your life, in whatever it is that you're doing. The age of miracles is still with us. Okay, just want to remind you, we've talked about this before, but it has some meaning for me. So there are at least 3 levels of miracles in this book. The first level is in the 10th step promises. It's on page 85, and the miracle is all of a sudden you're going to realize you're not thinking about drinking, and you know you didn't do that. That is the miracle of it. It feels like the problem has been removed. What I've struggled with all my life is not a problem, and it's a miracle, and I know I didn't do it, and it's a wonderful thing to realize. Another level of that is on page 51, and I'm going to read it because it's the top of 51. Leaving aside the drink question, they tell why living was so unsatisfactory. They show how the change came over them when many hundreds of people are able to say that the consciousness of the presence of God is today the most important fact of their lives. They present a powerful reason why one should have faith. This is another level. This isn't just, wow, I'm not thinking about alcohol. That's cool, and I didn't do it. This is all of a sudden this relationship, our consciousness of the spiritual presence of God in everywhere in our lives. The Jesuits are famous for finding God in everything. That's one of their themes. Conscious of the presence of God is the most important fact of our lives. Not that I'm rich or poor, not that I'm tall or short, not that I'm old or young. The most important fact of my life. I can say that today. It is. And then the third level is in the fifth step promises, and that's going to be on page 75. And that is at the bottom of the middle pair. The fifth step promises are in the middle of page 75, and the last one is we feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. You know, I'm not just conscious of the presence of God in my life. I feel like I'm walking hand in hand with it on a broad highway, not a thorny thicket little path of rocks and roots and, you know, difficulties and maybe a bog or something. I'm on a broad highway, walking hand in hand. That's another level. I get glimpses of it. It's what I hope for. That's a whole nother, anyway. Okay, so the age of miracles is still with us. Down toward the bottom. Oh yeah, okay, so in the chapter Working with Others, I'm on page 153, chapter Working with Others, you gathered an idea of how we approach and aid others to health. So suppose now that through you, several families have adopted this way of life. You will want to know more of how to proceed from that point. Perhaps the best way of treating you to a glimpse of your future will be to describe the growth of the fellowship among us. So here's a brief account. So what they're doing is describing how they got to this point. Now you got to remember, when they're writing the book, they're writing the book in 1938 predominantly, and it gets published in 39. This is 38, 35 is our first year. So this is the third year of this fellowship's existence. So, and they're really, when they're writing the book, there are 3 locations where AA meetings are going on. Akron, of course, New York, of course, and then Cleveland. And Cleveland took off when somebody, well, I don't have time to go into it, but Cleveland's got a great history, and they really made use of the book, and they may have started the sponsorship thing but there are only three communities, and when they wrote the book, they said there were 100 people have recovered. The truth is, it may have been more like 40 or 50, but Bill, ever the promoter, you know, the more zeros, the better. And so he just rounded, 40 rounds to 50 and 50 rounds to 100, right? So, but just imagine how small they are, 100 people or 50, whatever it is. So they're going to try to take you back to the past. And we did this before. The first story they talk about is what it took for Bob to get sober, because he gets sober, but he doesn't want to make amends. And so finally it's on page 156. And we read this before when we read also the story of Alcoholics Anonymous number 3, where they asked the 5 questions. And I'm just going to run through those real quick. But on page 156, he takes the bull by the horns and he goes around and tells these people that he's been drinking and that he's sober now, and then but life was not easy for the two friends. They saw that they must keep spiritually active, and then they go about and find this alcoholic number 3. And we read this version, and then we read the actual version, which is the first story after Dr. Bob's nightmare. So they ask him 5 questions, and I'm telling you, if you are actively involved in sponsorship, and the relationship fails or the person goes out, consider these 5 questions and consider in what way were they not able to live in accordance with the 5 questions. So the first question is, do you want to stop drinking? It seems so stupid to be the first question, but the fact is, when people don't succeed in this process, very often it's because they don't want to stop drinking. They may say they do, but they're trying to keep their options open. They, for whatever reason, they don't really want to stop drinking. Then question number 2, which is equally important. Do you think you can do it on your own? Do you think you can do it by yourself? And they're so beautiful. They're it's just so beautiful when you're reading the story, because they're going, if you think you can do it on your own, wow, do we admire you. We think that's great. Your lack of power is not your dilemma. Wow. But we need to find somebody who knows they can't do it on our own in order for us to stay sober. The whole thing, what they keep saying to him, oh, that'd be great. Go ahead, keep doing it, whatever. We need to find somebody who knows they can't do it on their own, who wants to be part of a fellowship. Third question is, you got any notion of higher power going on? Because it keeps saying, you're not going to get very far if you don't have some working notion of higher power, because that's the ultimate solution. Then the 4th question, this is where I would have failed. Are you willing to go to that higher power and ask for help calmly and without reservation? Dude, you kidding me? And then, the 5th, what the 5th question was? Can you do it one day at a time? We're not telling you got to do it the rest of your life, just one day at a time. It's where that whole thing starts up, a day at a time. So, okay, so we get through this story of AA number 3, and I'm over on page 159. And I'm down toward the bottom. The paragraph starts with, a year and 6 months later, these 3 had succeeded with 7 more. All right, you think about this. They spend a friggin' year and a half and they got 10. How's that make you feel? A year and a half, 10 people. And we're here today, 2 million strong. Although they say that we haven't, since 2010 or something, we haven't grown, not at the rate we were. Any rate, I thought that was interesting. And down below that, constantly thinking how they might present their discovery to some newcomer. Are you constantly thinking about how you can present your experience to some newcomer? I'm not. If they show up at meetings, sure. I'm not out there trying to find them. We're all sitting back waiting for them to come to us. Unless you're part of bridging the gap, or going into corrections or going into hospitals. Most of us we sit comfortably in our AA meetings. Oh, hey, welcome. They're talking about constantly aiming at newcomers. All right, top of page 160. They talk about everyone interested in a spiritual way of life. It's just don't forget it. This is a spiritual path. Outsiders became interested. One man and his wife placed their large home at the disposal of this strangely assorted crowd. I love that. So this is T. Henry and Clarice Williams, and it's in the Akron area. And this was all Oxford group. And I just don't have time today to go through this, but the Oxford groups are the only reason we're here. Everything that we do came out of the Oxford groups, and there's a moment in Bill Wilson in Pass It On, talks about the reasons why the fellowship in Akron left the Oxford groups, and Bill was part of the Oxford groups in New York City, don't forget, but they left him. It was somewhere in 1937. And he gives all these reasons why they left the Oxford groups, and we became Alcoholics Anonymous from the title of the book, not the other way around. Let's see, there's a paragraph on 161. Well, let's see. Okay, at the top of 161, at the end of that first paragraph, they had visioned the great reality, their loving and all-powerful creator. That's quite a statement of conscious contact. They visioned the great reality, their loving and all-powerful creator. Next paragraph starts talking about Cleveland. And then the final paragraph, but at the bottom of 161, but life among Alcoholics Anonymous is more than attending gatherings and visiting hospitals, cleaning up old scrapes, helping to settle family differences, explaining the disinherited son to his irate parents, lending money and securing jobs for each other when justified. These are everyday occurrences. No one is too discredited or is sunk too low to be welcomed cordially if he means business. Now that'll take you back to those 5 questions. Do you mean business? Because we're not to waste our time if they don't. Social distinctions, petty rivalries, and jealousies, these are laughed at of countenance. Being wrecked in the same vessel, being restored and united under one God, with hearts and minds attuned to the welfare of others, the things which matter so much to some people no longer signify much to them. How could they? It's so true for me. The stuff that always mattered to me just doesn't matter a hoot, and it's a wonderful feeling. And most of it, I'm going to say what's really changed is that the stuff that mattered to my mind and my body, I realize does not matter to my soul. And the more I am living in the soul's, I guess what I feel like when I am living more from my soul than my body and my mind, I am in the grace of God. And then I realize I am in the grace of God, by the grace of God, and for the grace of God. It's I don't know who said it, but it's just a wonderful. I am living in the grace of God, by the grace of God, as a result of the grace of God, and for the grace of God, to do what my God wants me to do here on planet Earth in the year 2022. All right, we're getting near the end. Oops, I got to speed up here a little bit. The top of page 162 is talking about New York City, and talking about Dr. Silkworth in particular. And just note, every few days, this doctor suggests our approach to one of his patients. Understanding our work, he can do this with an eye to selecting those who are willing and able to recover on a spiritual basis. The first thing we read in these meetings, I urge every alcoholic to read this book through. And though perhaps you came to scoff, you will remain to pray. Prayer is the ultimate spiritual tool for everything that we do. When we talk a lot about pause, ask and listen, do. Pause is establishing the conditions. Asking and listening is the work of step 11, prayer and meditation. And doing is the work of step 12, the action part, where we're taking what we get in terms of guidance from God, and put our feet on the ground and do something for the sake of others. Pause is step 10. Ask and listen is step 11, but you got to know what you're going to ask about. And what we ask about is, what is your will for me? What do you want to do? What do you want me to do? Please show me the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. Well, another formulation of that pause, ask and listen, do is right before the third step. First of all, we got to quit playing God. How do I play God? By relying on this to tell me what to do. That's how I play God. And then I believe my own thinking and follow my own thinking. Unable and unwilling to admit the failure of my own thinking, which is naturally selfish, self-centered, self-obsessed. That's what its job. First of all, we have to quit playing God. Next, we invite God in. We enter into relationship with God as our director, we're the actor. As our principal, we're the employee, agent. As our parent, and we're the child. Quit playing God, invite God in, do as directed. It's in the third step promises. If I keep close to my employer and do as my new employer directs me to do, I'll get everything I need. So life on a spiritual basis is pause, ask, listen, and do. All right, top of page 163. Oh yeah, I just wanted to point out, and this is the aim of this book. This book in your hand, we believe and hope it contains all you will need to begin. They wrote this book. Sponsorship was not part of the deal. They wrote this book in order to help you come to conscious contact, some experience of higher power. And the only time you needed another person other than amends was step 5. It was a do-it-yourself manual for coming to conscious contact. In that next paragraph in the middle, I'm jittery alone, I couldn't do that, but you can. You forget that you have just now tapped a source of power much greater than yourself. That's what we're trying to do here. To duplicate with such backing what we have accomplished is only a matter of willingness, patience, and labor, effort, action. Honest, open, and willing, keep showing up, getting truly honest with myself about what's happening in my life. Getting open-minded means not believing my own thinking and being willing to do stuff that makes me uncomfortable. That's where we all want the easier, softer way. And the strange part is that if we get to the grace of God, it is the easier, softer way. But that's not the way the human mind thinks. These next 2 paragraphs, these are about, supposedly about Hank Parkhurst and Montclair. It's taking place in Montclair, New Jersey. And notice at the bottom of 163, they claim a 50% success rate. More than half of those approached will become fellows of Alcoholics Anonymous. We got nothing like that today. All right, so we're on to the end, the last page, page 164. And this is just a wonderful, wonderful page. These last 2 paragraphs, they just say a number of things, sum up the whole deal. And so I'm going to read it, and then I have a final prayer to share with you, and we'll be done. Now, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. The farther you get in this deal, the more you realize how little you know. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation. You got a morning meditation going on? It's supposed to be going on every day. We ask our Creator each morning in meditation. Not when I think of it. It's like brushing my teeth. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order, if you've cleaned house. And here's a insulting statement if you want. But obviously, you cannot transmit something you haven't got. Ouch. What am I gonna got? What is it I got that I'm trying to transmit? And it's about to tell us, but obviously what it is a relationship with God. I like to never forget that the bedevilments, we were having trouble with personal relationships. And the number one offender is resentment. The reason I'm having trouble with personal relationships is because I start resenting the other person for whatever reason. Prey to misery and depression, full of fear. That's how we come in, and we're supposed to get something. And what we get, if we stick with it, is a relationship with God. Remember that guy, Fred, it's at the end of More About Alcoholism. And Fred's got a great life going on. And Fred says, I have since been brought into a way of living infinitely more satisfying and, I hope, more useful than the life I lived before. Quite a statement. You cannot transmit something you haven't got. And the only thing we're going to want to got is a relationship with God. And hopefully we get to the point where we feel as though we're walking on a broad highway hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. So here's the message of AA, of this book. You see to it that your relationship with God is working, which means you're going to have to spend time and attention and doing different reading and doing different things, talking about it. You see to it that your relationship with God is right, and you're going to have a great life. This is the great fact. This is the message. This great fact's capitalized. And then they tell us how to do it. They just running through the steps one more time. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to God and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. And here they're distinguishing between the spirit of the fellowship, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing, and the fellowship of the Spirit. That means I'm serious about God, and I'm trying to do what God wants me to do. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you'll surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. Trudge means walk slowly with purpose. May God bless you and keep you until then. Abandon yourself to God. How do we do that? We do that with all of the steps, but particularly with 10, 11, and 12. By pausing, not believing our own thinking, praying for removal, asking for redirection, doing what we're directed to do. Admit your faults to God and to your fellows, that's step 5. Clear away the wreckage of your past, that's 6 and 7 and 8 and 9. Give freely of what you find and join us, that's step 12. And you'll be there in the fellowship of the Spirit. Okay, I want to end with a prayer that's in the study guide, but it's way back on, it's in step 8, and it's, I was reading this with Glenn Monday, that's what reminded me about it. It's called Thomas Merton's Prayer, and for those of you that don't know, Merton was a Trappist monk that had a significant enlightenment experience and wrote a bunch of books, 7-Story Mountain, New Seeds of Contemplation, a bunch of different stuff. And but he's really well known for this prayer, and I'm sorry to get emotional here, but Thomas Merton's prayer. My Lord God, I have no idea where I am going. I do not see the road ahead of me. I cannot know for certain where it will end, nor do I really know myself. And the fact that I think I am following your will does not mean that I'm actually doing so. But I believe that the desire to please you does in fact please you. And I hope that I have that desire in all that I am doing. And I know that if I do this, you will lead me by the right road, although I may know nothing about it. Therefore, will I trust you always, though I may seem to be lost and in the shadow of death, I will not fear. For you are ever with me, and you will never leave me to face my perils alone. Okay, sorry. I'm gonna gong this gong, blow my nose, and we're gonna have some open discussion. And again, thank you all for participating in this wandering through the big book.